All right, my friends, we are live for Remodelers on the Rise Live, and we're live on my business Facebook page, on LinkedIn. Hello to the people on YouTube, and also in the private Facebook group called Remodelers Community. There's a gentleman who is my guest, and I don't call everybody gentlemen, but Mike, you're a gentleman.
It's because I'm old.
Oh, is that how it works?
Think
How
so.
it works. We were watching. What were we watching the other day? We were watching the movie Return to Me, which is just, if you want a romantic comedy. Woo! I mean, the guy's wife dies, and then he falls in love with the woman who got her heart. Oh, have you ever seen it?
I have not.
Okay, but in it, there's like four old guys, like you just said. Oh, an old guy. I'm an old guy. That's why. But there's four old guys who are just fun, and they're not distracted by technology, and they hug each other, and they're just jovial. And I made a comment to my wife. I'm like, I think we're missing that generation. My generation needs to be more like those guys in a lot of ways. But I digress. So Mike is active on the Remodelers community. He was this is the second time he's been on the show. Previously, we did a show specifically around the pros and cons of starting a handyman division inside your design build business. You can search on Remodelers on the Rise and you'll find that. But what we're going to focus on today is related to estimating, and in particular, I'm going to push a little bit more into the topic of job costs. Job costing. It is a topic that is incredibly important. And Mike, I'll let you use the line, but you said something about there's as many ways to estimate as what?
As there are contractors.
Expand on that a little bit.
Well, over the years when I've talked to other remodelers and contractors, everybody has their way, and they're like married to it. This is the way I do it, and this is the way that we do it. I know there's co-construct and builder trend, and but I've seen everything from guys that just guess. I think I'll do this for $50,000. I think I can get it done for you. I just hope and pray through it and see what they end up being, and then there's the other realm where the philosophy is your estimate should be within 1% of actual cost, which I don't like, because I think that there's a lot of money to grip. If you estimate what the market should be for each line item, and then you get it done because you've got a great system, you've got good people, and you get it done less, then you should be able to get some grippage on that, and the costs come under what you estimated, and that money drops right to the bottom line.
A beautiful thing. So a couple things that you had written over to me is, an estimating system should be valuable, repeatable, and teachable, which I think is a good thing for everybody to hear. And the other thing you mentioned was this system of job costing. And what we're going to do mostly here is I'm going to do a screen share and show you the spreadsheet and the system that Mike uses. I think it's going to spark some ideas and help everybody that watches this. But you said the system of job costing is a mind shift from how much did I make on that project to how much did I make on that line item. It's much more valuable to know line item performance versus just overall performance of a project. And that is a mind shift. That is an attitude shift. That is a doggone it. I'm going to get detailed enough with my estimating, and by golly, I'm going to get really detailed enough with my job costing to know the performance of each line. And while that might sound overwhelming, we don't have enough time for that. If you have it set up a certain way, it's not going to be as onerous as you might think. So I think we'll dive into, I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to dive into this here spreadsheet. All right, so this here spreadsheet is a pretty simple spreadsheet and also a robust spreadsheet. And I'm going to ask you questions as I go through this, but the first thing I wanted to do is highlight something that I think is interesting and valuable for anybody watching this. It's going to be hard for you guys to see, especially when I have that banner on. One second. There we go. But down here at the bottom, and Mike said, if anybody wants this spreadsheet, we'll be happy to send it to you. So if you want to put your email address in a comment or shoot me an email, I'll send you a copy of this. But the first thing that I really liked was all of these tabs are months and months and years of hard-earned knowledge. Hard-earned knowledge. You want to know about demo? Here's some square footage prices. Here's some disclaimers. Here's kind of some standards based on our experience before. We got something in yellow up here, starting on 9/17, double all framing material prices below due to lumber price increases. And what I'm seeing here, Mike, is as you guys review your estimating, continue to improve your estimating, and you go just piece by piece around your estimate, you're capturing all of those lessons learned. You're tweaking certain numbers based on what the job cost is doing. And I think a lot of this knowledge for a lot of people never gets documented. And I think it's a simple way that you're doing it. I'm going to create tabs within our master estimate sheet. And if anybody's estimating, they can go there and be reminded of some of these things. Tell us a little bit more about how you use this and the value of it.
Well, like I said, we've been working on these estimate sheets for, I guess 30 years now. And we have, this is just a general estimate sheet. We have one specifically for luxury kitchen. We have one for luxury bathroom, one for standard kitchen. And so everything's kind of pre-populated. But as we do our job costing and we see failures, then we can go back and figure out, why we lost money on that line item and come back in and adjust the tabs to
reflect that.
To reflect it, yeah. And sometimes material gets higher, and that's the price. Sometimes your subcontractors raise their hourly rate, or sometimes we're just guessing wrong. But as we learn, because whenever I lose money on something, I just say, okay, that's a class, and I want to go to that class again. So take what I learned, put it in here, and we won't have to do that again.
We've paid for it, we've learned from it, and we'll improve.
Right. And so
good.
It's there's so much you can learn about each step, and not documenting is foolhardy, I think.
Okay, so let's show just how you guys do this as an example. Maybe we'll start down here in the demo phase. And somebody said they're hearing some echo. Are you hearing any echo, Mike?
I am not.
Okay. If you can turn down the volume on your end, I think what it might be is hearing my audio coming through your computer. I think might be the case. So if you want to just turn it down where you can still hear me, but maybe a little quieter, that'll do the trick. Okay, cool. So what we've got here, and I think the easiest way is maybe to look at one example of one line item, and let's say demolition. And you do it a little different. We talked a little bit about this before we started hitting the record button, where I immediately was like, okay, demo, let's say we got 500 here, but the cost went really high. What you have here is basically, your labor hours, which is pretty standard. So, plug it in. There's a cost of $55 per labor hour and a total of $550. And then you have this where it's a little bit more. Describe this to me. What do you enter into that materials, and why does it multiply by 50? Okay,
well, so if you go down to the demo tab, it'll tell you that so look at line 14, material supply fee.
Yep.
So $50 per man per day. And
gotcha.
So that covers tape, plastic, whatnot. So if you have, so go back to your total.
Yep.
And you got 10 hours. Well, that's 1 1/4. And we always round up. So we would put 2 there.
Okay. Gotcha. That makes sense. Okay, so that's the way you approach this. You're typing in the scope of work as you go, and then so that's pretty straightforward. Let's just pause there. I want to make sure everybody's kind of on the same page, right? pretty standard estimate sheet here. We've got our different phases, different categories, and we're typing in the scope of work. We've got some reminders here. Now we understand how you calculate this, and then this is pretty straightforward. So you're going to work through piece by piece by piece through here. And what I kind of want to highlight next is how you, actually, before I do that, you wanted to share something related to the scope of work and kind of how you type that up. And then I wanted to kind of show how you're using this for job costing.
Right. So the way this sheet is set up is you're actually building the job. You know, I mean, it's what step you're taking. So demo, in that line, you would type, you know, whatever if you're tearing out a bathroom, it would be, you know, remove all fixtures in the bathroom, remove tile flooring, and just, you know, what you're taking out. And if you're saving anything, you know, save toilet for reinstallation or save cabinet for the neighbor, but, you know, your actual scope of work step by step. And then when you're done with this, we take this and convert it over to a Word document, and that's what we use for presentation. So it becomes a really great sales tool because, you know, clients sometimes don't understand the complexity of a job. And now here you got line item, and, you know, they see that you've really thought this through and not just taking a wild guess.
Okay. And the reason, perfect. So, the reason we're talking today is because you had commented on somebody's post related to job costing. So let's walk through as we scroll to the right on this spreadsheet, and we get into kind of the demo section here. What are all these fields about? How do you use them? Who updates them?
Okay.
Tell us about this.
Okay. So each day, our bookkeeper downloads our bank statement, and each item on the bank statement is charged to a job if it's job related. So in that, where it says demo, you put the date there, and then vendor could be the guy that did the demo. So put Chuck.
Yep.
And then Chuck spent $42 at Home Depot on plastic, and then he was out there for 8 hours, and we actually pay him $25 an hour, so that's $200.
Okay.
All right. So then over on column H, it shows that $240 in that. Oops.
Yeah, I got it right here.
So it populates there, and then automatically tells us whether we're over or under our target price. So
okay.
Like when we spent $242, we'd estimated $650, and so we're under budget by $408.
Okay. So what I don't think is helpful right now is to be like, wow, you know, you can use Buildertrend, you use CoConstruct. I do it this way. I could do it that way. There's a million different ways to do it. What I want everybody to focus on is watch how he does it. Is there some redundancy here? Perhaps. Is the person that's entering this information in each spreadsheet also going to enter that same information to QuickBooks? Yes. But there's more than one way to do this. Now, the reason I just want to highlight that and show this is what we're seeing here of, Mike, you being able to see day by day as it happens, week in and week out, and be able to see where all of your actuals are coming in compared to your estimating. This is a very simple way that you go about it, but it's very clear. And, you know, the concept, the idea that we're driving at here is you can see on each line item, on each phase of the job, very clearly what your estimated versus actual was, if it's going over or under. And instead of playing, you know, Monday morning quarterback, instead of looking at a bigger thing and looking at a full job cost report after the project's done, or even halfway through that 3-month project, you're able to be thinking and making adjustments day by day, week by week.
Exactly. Yeah. And so what it does is if you get in trouble on a line item, let's say we missed on the demo and we were upside down, you know, $300. Well, we got the rest of the job to try to recover that. So we may get in with the framers, you know, but it gives the project manager, you know, he instantly knows he's behind, And so it's a way to tighten things up. And the other thing that it's really good for is catching add-on items that might slip by you. Let's say you had budgeted $1,000 for the electrician rough end. You get his bill and it's $1,500. Well, you immediately call in the project manager. Why is this? And then you figure out, oh, the homeowner had him put can lights in the other three bedrooms as an add-on item, and so then we can immediately bill the homeowner for that add-on item, because it's a heck of a lot easier to get the money out of add-on items when it's in real time rather than waiting to the end of the job and negotiating with it, because you'll always look at negotiation.
Absolutely. Okay. When you answered that labor, you said, I pay him $25. Now that's just flat hourly. Do you usually put in the fully burdened number into that, or tell me a little bit more about that?
$55 here.
Okay.
Has the burden in there, and so the other costs will wash out in the P&L.
Okay.
$55 is matching taxes, insurance, those kind of things, and that's why we always want to be under budget, because that money needs to drop down to the P&L and cover those costs.
Okay. So again, some of the things that I see on here is simplicity, is clarity. I really appreciate just how, look, they come in here, they go to that particular job, they look at, okay, we had an expense related to permits. I plug that in there, and boom, it tallies up and adds, and I can start to see my estimated versus actual. And this, frankly, this part's my favorite. I think this is very often just overlooked. So much lessons we've learned, so much ability, not just to verbally say, hey, next time when we quote framing, let's make sure we adjust it like this. And then needing to remember to grab the most recent version or estimating sheet. I like that you have all of this brain knowledge kind of located clearly in one spot. And I don't know if people would want to do this the exact same way, but few of my remodeling clients have all of these lessons learned in an organized way that you could easily reference and update. There's way too much of it just sitting in the noggin versus really written out where people can see it. And especially in your case, you have multiple people that are estimating. All the more important to make sure the communication and the information is clear.
Yeah, we have six different people that estimate in our company, and so we all want to be doing the same thing.
Okay, excellent. Let's pause there, and I'm going to click on a few. I'm going to click on a few little questions that popped up. Michael said, totally agree. This is going back a little ways. The lines of the estimate are what matters most, not the overall job. He did say, why isn't the goal to have an estimate be within 1% accurate? You made that comment.
Because I want to make 10%. I want to be 10% under. We estimate what the market will bear, and with our efficiencies, we want to come in 10% under. So that 10% drops right to the bottom line, because we mark up 50%. To get a 30% net, 33% net, but we want in the end to be at 40%. And so that's
gotcha.
I feel like a 50% markup is fair to the client. And if we're bigger, better, faster than the average Joe and can make another 10% in the process, that's what we're trying to do.
Got it. Question, does your lumberyard send you a monthly pricing report to modify your materials numbers? How do you handle that?
No, we buy all of our lumber from, most of it from Home Depot. And so we'll just go online and we just keep an eye on what the prices are. And there again, if Home Depot's charging $15 for a half-inch OSB, we're charging $20.
Gotcha. Why Home Depot? Why? I mean, you're a pretty big business, established business. Why Home Depot versus lumberyards?
Well, we only do lumberyards on, like, if we do a room addition, we'll buy it from the lumberyard. But It's mainly because convenience. Where we live, there's a Home Depot and a Lowe's on every corner, but the lumber yard's a half-hour drive.
Okay.
So that's the main reason. But
Gotcha.
on the big job, we do that.
Cool, Christelle. Whether it's Christelle or Matthew requesting this, we will send you over this this spreadsheet. Bailey, if you're watching this, make a note of that.
You can give them my email address, and they're welcome if they have questions or want clarification. I'm happy to answer questions about it.
Cool. Michael's asking lots of questions here. Do you track hours used or cost of labor for your review?
The cost of the labor.
Okay. And then what we said there, agree that estimating knowledge can't live in one person's head. It needs to be repeatable. And so I said that, Michael said that, and I'm going to say that again. There's so many remodelers where this knowledge is all up here. What you're seeing, if that's the case, it's very intimidating. How do I get this out of my head? How do I put it on paper? Use this example that you're seeing here with Mike's of just create all those different tabs, create those different sections, and start documenting some of these details in each of these sections. Okay.
Kyle, what we learned too is, because my son is a partner in the business and he's been around for 25 years, and if there's an estimate come out, we always play a game. He and I will guess how much we think the estimate's going to come out to. Mm-hmm. And we're like stupid close, in our guess. But what we found as we are teaching people to estimate, they do a better job than we do. Because they're estimating with cold hard facts, where we tend to be a little more emotional about it, And so that repeatable and teachable is really important.
So what are you saying? We need to be less emotional?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it needs to be automated.
That phrase. I heard one of my clients say this a few years ago. He hired an estimator, and that's the phrase he used. He goes, when I'm meeting with the homeowner and I'm getting to know them, and I kind of want to work with them, and I know this budget's going to be tight, I get all emotional. I start making adjustments. I start squeezing. Maybe it's only going to take. This estimator is just cold hard truth. Right. He doesn't know all of that other stuff. He's just estimating this based on the facts and what we're doing. So there is some good truth to that. Another thing you had written down is a detailed estimate gives you the confidence that the price you are asking for a project is fair to everyone. You touched on that a little bit, but what else would you add to that comment?
Well, that falls into the valuable and repeatable areas, because when we do I'm always surprised how expensive stuff is. It's like, golly, I remember when we used to be able to do a hall bathroom for $15,000, and now we can't get them under 30. And so, but if we're very consistent on how we do our estimate, how we mark it up, and we've been selling jobs, it builds confidence that I know it's too much money, but hey, this is how much it costs, to be fair to the client, fair to the guys working there, and fair to the business.
Got it. Have you looked at creating one thing he said, I really like that there is a version for high-end and mid-level projects that carry different kinds of requirements, right? You mentioned having kind of some variation there.
Like 10 different ones.
Gotcha. Have you looked at creating modules in the template that include multiple parts? What do you think he means by that?
You find that most of it is that way. Because if you go to the framing tab, we have per foot.
Okay.
So we're not breaking out the studs and the plates and all. It's combined, and like for our electrician and our plumber, what we have learned that for every hour they work, they typically use about $75 worth of installation materials. So we're breaking down, how many feet of wire and how many plugs and all. We just know that, if he's going to be out there for 10 hours, he's going to have a $750 labor material bill.
You might be making some people squirm right now by saying that. What do you mean you don't break that down? What do you mean you don't get into that? There's more than one way to do it, isn't there?
Yeah, and that's that's your history lesson, And the other thing I've learned too is the more you try to break it down like that, the more likely you're going to make a mistake. do it in modules, then and you have some reserve in those, then you're not gonna underbid it.
Interesting. What else would you want the people to know about how you're approaching this estimating and job costing?
Well, if on the line items where you're listing the scope of work, that needs to be palatable to the homeowner. I mean, needs to be spell checked, grammar checked, and this is what we're doing in each step. And so that when you present the proposal to build, when we sit down there, we read them every line, and it takes a half hour, but that way, it just makes sure that there's no rock that's been unturned, and it builds value with the customer, because they're like, wow, they've really thought this through, and I didn't realize that, and no wonder it's that much. So it
Good. So don't be shy about that detailed, clear scope of work and taking the time to go through it.
Right. And yeah, because that'll keep you from making mistakes on your estimating, and then that becomes your selling tool.
Love it.
And that's, we never, I mean, we're always, people know that we're the most, expensive. And, if I was the cheapest one, then I feel like I would have failed, but you have to you build credibility by having all that detail in there.
If I were to summarize again, I think anytime somebody looks at somebody's process like this, and especially you've got it kind of simple, and it doesn't have a lot of, it's not the sexiest looking spreadsheet I've ever seen, right? It's pretty just straight up, and it gets the job done. There's a lot of times where I see this. I guess I'll use this as an opportunity for anybody listening. I think sometimes when ideas are shared, when examples are shared, we immediately go into critique mode instead of, that's interesting. Let's kind of look at that. Let me evaluate that. What can I glean from this that I can maybe incorporate into mine versus, I wouldn't do it that way. Like, we do it this way. We do it that way. Frankly, there needs to be a lot more of, what do I think of that idea? What do I think of that approach? What can I learn from that? So I share that because I want to see, I think it's good for all of us to be thinking more that way. And I think this is a really good example of that, of going, there's people with much more sophisticated systems. Can they still learn from a little bit more old school? You mentioned, like, this is an Excel spreadsheet. Like, I've looked at this, I've looked at that, this works. I want people to always be thinking, what can I glean from that? And certainly there is time and a place for giving feedback, or, hey, have you considered doing that? But I think there's a lot, if anybody's watching this and you've paid kind of attention to what we've covered, boy, there's a takeaway or two here that you can incorporate into your estimating. So I wanted to kind of emphasize that.
Yeah, one of the points that we do that I think is powerful is that we don't ask our subcontractors for estimates. We take our knowledge and experience and figure out, how they bill by the hour, and just figure out how many hours they're going to use. Because if we ask them for an estimate, then, you got to beat it out of them to begin with. And when they give it to you, they're guessing, and they're going to guess in their favor. So it's better for us to guess in our favor, and then just make sure that when we call them out to the job, we're really ready for them. They've got a good work environment, and they can get in and out as quick as possible. And you can make a lot.
So pretty much all of them are working on more of a T&M basis then?
Yes.
Okay. And it's the years of experience. It's estimating properly with a lot of historic knowledge. It's also most likely the longevity of you working with certain trade partners that gives you the confidence to kind of use that shortcut, frankly, right? A lot of people are kind of saying, look, that puts the risk on you, Mike. That puts the risk on your shoulders if they use more time. What you're saying is it also reduces the amount of time that we need to put into it. It reduces their hassle factor of quoting us. And we're watching it closely enough, hence day by day, week by week, that we're able to confidently do that. Interesting.
Right. And we fired some subs because they're not consistent in their pricing. and we really drill down and just we want to know how much you're charging by the hour, and it's like our plumber's $155 an hour for two guys, which it's hard to choke down, but he comes in there and he gets it done faster than any plumber I've ever seen. So he's a lot per hour, but he can knock it out in 3/4 of the time or half the time, and so it works out.
Good. I learned a few things. You got me thinking about some things here, and I think the people that are watching this, whether it was live or whether I must have said something similar to Siri, because my Siri on my computer just went off. Just trying to do stuff in technology. Yeah, I guess so. Estimating for the subs, cool. I've heard that from a couple firms. It's a really cool idea. Cool. All right, so I think everybody that listens to this learned something. They're thinking. I will say one last thing is job costing. Job costing. Yes, there's a lot of cool things related to estimating. Please be taking your job costing serious. You're going to be a more productive, efficient, profitable business if you continue to lean into how do I watch my actual versus estimated closely. That's my final thought. And then, Mike, if you were to give people kind of a final thought, maybe even put a little cherry on this show, what would you say?
Well, I think that we're here to make money, and if you're not looking at every nickel coming through early, that you're not doing what you should be doing. I mean, I think that we used to be called contractors, and now we're remodelers, designers, and all that. And when you do a pretty good sized job, I mean, you've got maybe 100 different contracts. Some of them are handshakes, some of them are on paper, and you've got to look at every line and master every line, and that's where you start being successful.
Love it. Watch the pennies and the dollars will follow, right?
Exactly.
Cool. Well, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Appreciate you sharing this example, your willingness to share the spreadsheet with anybody that wants to put their email address in the comments or shoot me a note. I'll get it to you.
Yeah, and if you want to put my email in the comments, if they want questions or clarification, I'm more than happy to do that.
Awesome. Like I said at the start, you're a gentleman. Cool. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Have a good day. Thanks.